Hello everybody, welcome back to our CMA classes. So yes, let's continue with some of the sections of PGBP in this lecture, and we are going with section 37, which is of general deduction. Okay, so far we know this, that this section is specifically for deductions, okay, which is saying about that in this section, in this particular section, we are not going to get the deduction which is already covered under section 30 to 36, or the SSC who have availed the deduction already in section 30 to 36. So definitely this section exclude these deduction which were already covered under section 30 to 36 की बात कर रहे हैं. Okay, इतना I know. Okay, and so far we know this expenditure incurred should be specifically done for what purpose? Business and profession purpose. Okay, what if it is done for personal purpose? अरे नक्को मिलेगा रे expenditure तुमको, deduction नक्को मिलता personal expenditure के. Okay, what about the capital expenditure? Okay, it's also not going to be get. ठीक है, so far we know these things now very well. ठीक है, let's read more thing in this section. They are saying that देखो, if the company is doing CSR activity and they are spending expenditure for what the CSR activities है ना, okay, and we know what are the activities covered under CSR, right? And what is going to the percentage? 2% of the 3 year है ना, हाँ पता है अपने को, ठीक है. So that expenditure cannot be availed by the company. So this is going to be disallowed. Okay, and another expenditure which is related to advertisement in any pamphlet, brochure, etc., which is actually published by the political party is going to be disallowed, है ना, under section 37. But income tax is saying don't worry baba, we are here for you. ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. What if section 37 is not going to give you the deduction? We'll give you deduction in some other section. ठीक है, so the donation to political party or electoral trust is going to be allowed under section 80 GGB, which is for company. For the company you can avail the deduction under section 80 GGB, and for the other SSC like individual and all, ठीक है, छोटे छोटे लोग की बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, so for them it's going to be availed under section 80 GGC. इतनी बात समझ में है. पहली बात देखो, they are simply saying CSR activity की तो तुमको नक्को मिलेगा, but if the advertisement is all done by the political party, that is going to be disallowed in this section 37. नक्को मिलेगा यहाँ पे डिडक्शन आपने को, बट विल गेट द डिडक्शन अंडर सेक्शन 80 GGB. ठीक है, डरो मत ना, इनकम टैक्स वाले अच्छे होते हैं. हाँ जी, एंड 80 GGC फॉर द अदर SSC, GGB वाला फॉर द कंपनी. इतनी बात मुझे बहुत अच्छे से पता है. ओके, सो यस, फॉर द PM रिलीफ फंड विच इज सेट अप बाय सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एंड PM केयर्स फंड कंसिडर्ड एज CSR. As I told you, CSR के लिए नक्को मिलता है, but for this, the PM relief fund which is set up by the central government or the PM cares fund, here the SSC can claim the deduction under section 80G. इतनी बात समझ में आई? So don't confuse here. ठीक है, this is going to be considered as CSR, but still the SSC can avail the deduction. ठीक है, so yes, we can see these things in question. ठीक है, so confusion नक्को लेने का यहाँ पे. Now some other things are deduction of expenditure which is related to issue of shares of and the debentures. ठीक है, where if the preliminary expenses on issue of share is done under section 35D, याद आया, before commencement of business and after commencement of business मिलता है ना. हाँ जी, so this is going to be allowed as expenditure. Okay, so what about the issue of bonus share? फिर मिल जाएगा expenditure, काई को तुम डरते हो रे बाबा. Then next about the issue of debenture, फिर से मिल जाएगा एक्सपेंडिचर, काई को डर रहे हो, इनकम टैक्स वालों का दिल बहुत बड़ा होता है. ठीक है, सो व्हाट अबाउट द इश्यू ऑफ कन्वर्टेबल डिबेंचर, अगेन यू विल गेट द डिडक्शन हियर. ओके, इतनी बात समझ में आ गई ना, मुझे बहुत अच्छे से आ गई. लेट्स गो फॉर द अदर पार्ट वेयर दे आर सेइंग सम ऑफ द एक्सपेंडिचर इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी अलाउड. सीधी बात, नो बकवास, डिसअलाउड कर देंगे. ठीक है, ओके, सो द एक्सपेंडिचर विच इज रिलेटेड टू पब्लिक इश्यू ऑफ शेयर, क्या disallowed. Issue of right share expenditure, disallowed. Fees for enhancement of authorized capital, disallowed. So don't confuse here. ठीक है, so for these part expenditure which is related to preliminary expenses, issue of bonus share, issue of debenture, convertible debenture, you are going to get the expenditure for these. ठीक है, but for these you are not going to get the expenditure. ठीक है, it's going to be disallowed. Let's go for the section 48. अच्छा, let me go back first. ठीक है, this part I'm not going to read because this is simply saying देखो personal expenditure ना को मिलेगा, capital expenditure ना को मिलेगा, 36 में it's not covered. Then if it is covered, then you are not going to get the deduction under section 37. ठीक है, so this is simple, I'm not going to read it. Okay, so let's go for section 40 subsection A. देखो बात ध्यान से सुनो, ठीक है, because this section is important. Okay, and in this section they are simply saying देखो this section is divided into two part. Okay, the very first case is saying about देखो if any of a person is making payment to the non-resident, okay, and to what is that payment? If it is, let me give the example here. ठीक है, the payment could be related to interest, royalty, fees for technical services or whatsoever. ठीक है, I have given some of the example here, so you should get a clarification about it, about the payment. Okay, so this any person who is a resident who is making payment to whom? To a non-resident. ठीक है, and this person have not deducted the TDS. First case. ठीक है, फर्स्ट केस का फर्स्ट पार्ट बोल रहे हैं कि दिस पर्सन हैव नॉट डिडक्टेड दी TDS, or what if he have deducted the TDS and he have not paid to central government. First thing, when TDS is not deducted, पाप लग गया भैया आपको. ठीक है, किसको? SSC, any person को. ठीक है, to the resident person को. Okay, and what if he have deducted the TDS and not paid to the central government, to the government? घोर पाप लग गया आपको. ठीक है, सो पापी हो आप. ठीक है, सो व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन नाउ? देखो, the expenditure would be 100% disallowed in this case. Okay, of what? This payment, right? So here the first case is simply saying if any person who is making payment to non-resident, ठीक है, and either if the TDS is not deducted or if the TDS deducted but it's not deposited to the central government, पापी हो आप. डिडक्शन ना को मिलेगा अब यहाँ पे आपको. ओके, सो व्हाट इफ इट इज पेड लेटर, the TDS, ठीक है, if it was deducted and it is actually paid later on years. ठीक है, so whenever it's paid in whichever previous year, in whichever year it's going to be paid, ठीक है, it will be allowed in that year. ठीक है, डरो मत, मैं बोल रही हूँ ना, अपने इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट वाले बहुत अच्छे. ठीक है जी, हाँ जी. सो व्हाट if paid before due date, as there is some another scenario that देखो, what if he have deducted the TDS and not paid? I'm going for the second case here. ठीक है, ये वाला केस. ठीक है, not paid to the central government. ठीक है, आप बहुत बड़े पापी हो, वो वाला केस. ठीक है, घोर पापी हो, वो वाला केस. ठीक है, what if you have deducted the TDS, the no any SC, the SSC have deducted the TDS. ठीक है, and he have not deposited to the central government, but he have paid the TDS, the tax. ठीक है, before the due date under section 139 subsection 1. अब you have to think what is going to be the return rate. ठीक है, return date. ठीक है जी, हाँ जी. ओके, so this will be allowed in the same year as the person have paid the amount, the tax to the central government before the due date of under section 139 subsection 1. इतनी बात समझ में आई? कंफ्यूज ना होने का. लेट मी से इट अगेन. ठीक है, ओके. फर्स्ट सिनेरियो आई वाज सेइंग दैट इज द पर्सन, ठीक है, who have made the payment to non-resident. ठीक है, and TDS was not deducted. First तो clear है. Okay, and what if the TDS was deducted and it was not paid to the central government on time? Okay, first thing. But what if this is the second case ना? ठीक है, but what if he have paid that amount, the tax, to the central government before their due date under section 139 subsection 1? So this expenditure will be allowed in the same year. डरो मत ना. देखो, मैं बोल रही हूँ इनकम टैक्स वाले बहुत अच्छे हैं, काहे को डरने का. ओके, सो इतनी बात समझ में आ गई ना. इट वॉज वेरी सिंपल, है ना. ओके, नाउ हेयर दी रेजिडेंट, दैट एनी पर्सन, एनी रेजिडेंट वाली की बात कर रहे हैं, SSC. ठीक है, he is going to be SSC in default if he have not paid the tax. ठीक है, and if he have not deducted the TDS or if he have not make the payment to the central government on time or before the due date. ठीक है, दोनों चीज आ गई इसमें. ओके, सो व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? दिस रेजिडेंट इज गोइंग टू बी SSC इन डिफॉल्ट अंडर सेक्शन कौन सा? 201 सबसेक्शन 1. ऐसा कुछ होता है क्या? याद करो. ओके, सो दिस रेजिडेंट इज गोइंग टू बी व्हाट? द SSC इन डिफॉल्ट. ओके, सो there are two parties, as I told you. Very first was this party, any person, ठीक है, he is going to be the resident, right? The other party is going to be non-resident. But in this scenario, the non-resident is little bit punctual. ठीक है, ही इज लिटिल बिट स्मार्ट, ही नो देखो हमारा बॉस इज नॉट गोइंग टू डिडक्ट द TDS, वो थोड़ा सा लापरवाह, इज अ लिटिल बिट लेजी पर्सन, ठीक है. सो let me file the return before due date, ठीक है, let me file the return before due date, ठीक है, because we know we are tax student, we used to file our return before due date, है ना, यही होता है ना, हाँ जी, okay. And in that return I have shown that income which is given by this resident person. बात समझ में आए, this non-resident have filed the return and in that return he have shown the income, the payment which was made by the resident, okay, and he have also paid the tax to that income to the government. सीधी बात, ठीक है. So the thing which is to be done by this person, the resident, which is done by non-resident, तो सोने पे सुहागा हो गया भैया, है ना. So what is going to be happen here? Now this resident will not be assessing in default. Earlier he was. Let me say it again, ठीक है. देखो this person is what? Any person, right? इतनी बात समझ में आ गई ना मुझे बहुत अच्छे से, हाँ जी आ गई है, ओके. सो दिस रेजिडेंट पर्सन, एज आई टोल्ड यू, हैव इज गोइंग टू मेक अ पेमेंट टू नॉन रेजिडेंट, this non-resident, and he by default he forgot to file the deduct the TDS, okay. And what if he have deducted the TDS, he have not paid it to the central government, but this non-resident knows that my boss is little bit lazy, and I know he will not going, he might forget to mention that TDS in his return, or he will not file before the due date, and whatsoever the reason is, ठीक है, he know the person is little bit mad, ठीक है, little bit lazy, let's see, ठीक है. So this non-resident have already filed the return of income, and in that return of income he have shown the income which was given by the resident person. इतनी बात समझ में आ गई ना, हाँ. And in that again, as he have shown that income, so what is going to be happen? Taxes to be paid now, yes. So the non-resident was smart here. So with by whatever the thing is done by non-resident, ठीक है, which means it is going to be helpful for the resident, okay. And in this case the resident is not going to be declared as the assessee in default. इतनी बात समझ में आ गई ना, हाँ जी, okay. So but what one more thing is going to happen here, ठीक है, this non-resident have to make a statement, have to show the statement which is given by his accountant, ठीक है. So and this is to be given to the resident, then only he will be declared as not a person, not an assessee in default, ठीक है. Once the statement is given by the accountant of non-resident to whom, to the resident, then only he will not declared as the assessee in default. इतनी बात समझ में आएगी, that's it, ठीक है. This is all about this case, section 40 subsection A clause first, okay. So let's go for the section 40 subsection A clause first A, okay. Again there is any person who is making payment to whom, to the resident. Earlier it was non-resident na, हाँ जी. So here any person who is making a payment to resident, same scenario, either he have not deducted the TDS, or if he have deducted TDS and he have not deposited to the central government, what is going to happen? In this case 100% disallowance was happen, ठीक है, 100% deduction is going to be disallowed. But in this case, for the resident case, 30% disallowed would be here, ठीक है, which means that the disallowance of deduction of what, कितना percent? 30%. Earlier for the non-resident is going to be 100%. For them resident it's going to be only 30%, okay. So there is one more question to you. What about the equalization levy? As we know what is the meaning of equalization levy, right, which I have already covered, है ना, ठीक है. What is going to be the rate? 2 rates होते हैं ना, हाँ जी, ठीक है. So what is going to be the equalization levy rate, ठीक है. What if the same thing happens with equalization levy, ठीक है. In this case again 100% deduction नहीं मिलेगा, ठीक है, 100% disallowed हो जाएगा deduction, ठीक है. So for this and for the non-resident 100% disallowed, deduction is going to be 100% disallowed, okay. So hope so up to this was clear now. So let me read very quickly guys about this section 40 subsection A. The following amount are not deductible under the head payment made outside India or to the non-resident on which TDS not made paid on before due date of furnishing return of income specified under section 139 subsection 1. However, where in respect of any sum tax has been deducted in any subsequent years or has been deducted during the previous year but paid after the due date specified in subsection 139 subsection 1, then such sum shall be allowed as a deduction in computing the income of the subsequent previous year in which the previous has been so paid. इतनी बात मुझे क्लियर है ना? हाँ जी, इट वॉज वेरी क्लियर. ठीक है. इन केस एसएससी फेल्स टू डिडक्ट द whole or any part of tax or any such sum but is not deemed as assessing default under the first provision of subsection 201 subsection 1 by reason that such payee has furnished his return of income under section 139. First case, right? And second case has taken into account such sum of computing income in such return of income. कौन सी वाली बात करें हुए? दैट रेजिडेंट have made the payment to the non-resident and he have shown, the non-resident have shown that payment in his return of income under section 139 subsection 1. Okay. And has paid the tax due on the income declared by him कौन सा? resident. ठीक है. In such return of income and payers furnishes any SSC who is going to be resident. ठीक है. So yes, he have paid the tax. ठीक है. So what is going to happen? Any person who is going, the resident, any person, ठीक है, will not be assessing in default under section 201 subsection 1. सेक्शन याद करने का. ओके. इतनी बात समझ में आ गई? हाँ जी, मुझे बहुत अच्छे समझ में आ गई. Okay. Certificate to this effect from the accountant in such a form as may be prescribed. Okay. It would be deemed that the SSC has deducted and paid the tax on such sum on the date on which return of income has been furnished by the payee. And second case, B, payment to resident on which has not been deducted paid 30% of such sum shall not be allowed as a deduction, which means 30% is going to be disallowed. ठीक है. 30% of such sum shall be allowed as deduction in computing the income of subsequent previous year in which it has so deducted and paid. Same thing. Which I told you about the non-resident. What if he had paid, the resident person have actually paid in subsequent previous year? So again, whenever you are going to pay, you are going to get the deduction. Okay. So remaining 30% which was disallowed is going to be allowed in that previous year. Okay. Where any SSC fails to deduct the whole or any part on the tax on such sum shall but in not deemed to be SSC in default under the first provision of subsection 201 subsection 1, where the payee has deposited self-assessed tax directly, then it shall be deemed that the payee has deducted and paid the tax on such sum on the date of furnishing of return or the income by the payee. Okay. C point says payment to non-resident on which equalization levy has not been deducted, 100% is allowed है ना? हाँ जी. After deduction has not been paid on before the due date specified under section 139 subsection 1. However, in respect of any such consideration, the equalization levy has been deducted in any subsequent year and has been deducted during the previous year but paid after the due date specified section 139 subsection 1. Such sum shall be allowed as a deduction computing the income of previous year in which it has been paid. Okay, simple but okay. Let's go for some of the different point. Okay, here any amount which is paid by way of royalty, license fees, service fees, privilege fees, service charge or any other fees or charge by whatever name called, which is levied exclusively on which is appropriated directly or indirectly from state government undertaking by the state government. Okay, let me make it short now. ठीक है. Where any amount which is levied exclusively ठीक है, exclusively on central government undertaking, ठीक है, undertaking by whom? By the central government. ठीक है, where the amount is in form of royalty, license fees, service fees, privilege fees, service charge or any other fees. ठीक है, where this amount is actually levied exclusive on the central government undertaking and by whom? By central government itself. So this is not going to be available as a deduction. This is going to be disallowed. Okay. So second thing, any payment chargeable under the head salary if it is paid outside India, ठीक है, or a non-resident, if tax has not been paid, there are no deduction therefrom. Acha, this I have already said that if to the non-resident if it is the payment, the TDS was not deducted, or what if the TDS was deducted, it was not paid to the central government before the due date, है ना, it's not going to be allowed. ठीक है, 100% deduction it's not going to be allowed. ठीक है, but there I told you in earlier cases, in this cases, interest, royalty, fees for the technical services and all, ठीक है, where I told you that if it is the payment, the TDS is further subsequent deducted or deposit to the government, ठीक है, in any of the subsequent previous year, then you are going to get the deduction. ठीक है, but in case of salary, wait दिएगा, but in case of salary you will not get that deduction if you have not paid before the due date to the central government. What if you have not deducted this TDS, or you have not made the payment to the central government before the due date? Then you can never get the deduction in further coming subsequent previous year. Okay, so you have to make the payment on that previous year itself. Okay. Then comes a contribution toward the provident fund if no arrangement has been made to TDS from payment made from fund which are taxable under head salary. For these also you are not going to get the deduction if there is no arrangement which is made for the TDS. For what? The provident fund wala, okay? And tax on non-monetary perquisite actually paid by the employee. We know this, okay? So in this case also deduction would not be allowable, okay? I have recently read some of the news that in China one company have given some of the, I guess, car ticket to their employees, okay, who were doing a great job, or who are connected to the company for a long time and all, okay, on the basis of their performance. So the non-monetary perquisite which is actually paid by whom? By the employer to the employee will not get deduction. The employer will not get a deduction of that car, okay? In this case the company have to pay the tax, okay? इतनी बात समझ में आ गई? हाँ जी. So for this non-monetary perquisite actually paid by employee will not also get the deduction here. Okay, so this case is all about the resident wala 30%. Okay, same thing is written here, ठीक है, but the section is section 40 subsection A clause first A. Okay, and for this the earlier section 40 A subsection A and clause first was for of non-resident, and this is for the resident, okay? So this is the same thing, you have to read it. Okay, so let me go for the other case, guys. Case is, this is simple, okay? So I'm just reading out, okay? Section 40A of Income Tax Act, tax deduction for the companies and the firm. Here the section 40A lists out the various amount that cannot be deducted from the profit and gain earned by companies, partnership firm, LLP, taxable income under the head profit and gain from the business or profession. The term of this section would apply to all taxpayer regardless of provision of section 30 to 38. The income not allowed as a deduction are as follow. Okay, so simple language, let me say that this income will not be allowed, will not get any of the deduction. Okay, for whom? For the companies, partnership firm, LLP and all. Okay, so what is that? If the interest, royalty or fees for technical services earned outside India. Okay, so for these income, the SSC, they will not get any of the deduction. First says interest, royalty, fees for the technical services which is earned outside India. Okay, salary paid to employees outside India. Inside India की बात नको कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे. They are talking about the salary which is paid to the outside India to the employees. Any amount paid to the state government by the state undertaking. We know this. Okay, amount paid for the fringe benefit of tax. नको मिलेगा. Okay, any tax levied on the profit from the business profession definitely नहीं मिलेगा. Some pay to the wealth tax. This part is not now. ठीक है. Okay, so let's go for the section 40A subsection 2, where the disallowance of the payment made to specified person relative in excess of a fair market value. Okay, where the SSC incurred any expenditure, ठीक है, related to whom? Related to specified person. So we have to know who are the person going to fall under specified person. ठीक है, so थोड़ा सा wait करो, थोड़ा सा सब्र करो, सब पता चल जाएगा. So where this SSC have incurred any of the expenditure with whom? With the specified person. ठीक है, and as per the assessing officer, this expenditure is of excessive, ठीक है, amount or unreasonable, ठीक है. the expenditure done by this SSC related to with whom, with the specified person, either is of excessive amount or it's related to unreasonable, it is reasonable. Okay, in this case the assessing officer will disallow the excess amount. Okay, for example, they specify, let us know who are the person fall under the specified person now. Okay, we'll get more clarification now. Okay, so in this case, first for the individual, relative is going to be the specified person. For the company, directors with plus relatives is going to be the directors ki relatives they are talking about. Okay, for the firm, partners and their relatives is going to be the specified person. For HEF, member and their relatives is going to be the specified person here. Okay, and any person having the substantial interest will be relative here. सीधी सादी बात, no bakwas. So let me say, any person who is I'm a director in the company. ठीक है, I'm working in a company and I'm a director here. Okay, I'm working in XYZ company. ठीक है, so the company have done transaction with me. Okay, and as you know, I am having some connection with the company. Okay, I'm the substantial, I'm a specified person here. Okay, so the company done a transaction with me, and in actual the rate is going to be 100. Let's take 100 rupees. Take a clarification rahega. Okay, and me being a director of the company, and company means I and a company have a transaction between us. Okay, and the amount was only of 70 rupees. So what is here, the excess amount, excess of 30 is going to be disallowed here. Okay, and one more thing, this section is only saying about expenditure, not about the income. Okay, so this section is specifically saying that the disallowance of payment made to specified person or a relative in excess of fair market value. Okay, so whatever the excess amount, okay, that is going to be disallowed. सीधी बात, no bakwas. Okay, so let's read very quick, guys. If SSC incur any expenditure related to which payment has been or is to be made to the specified person, and the assessing officer is of opinion that such expenditure is excessive or unreasonable, having regard to the fair market value of the goods, services, facilities, for which a payment is made, or the legitimate needs of the business or profession of the SSC, or the benefit derived by the accruing to the SSC therefrom, then so much of expenditure as so considered by the assessing officer is to be excessive or unreasonable shall be allowed as a deduction. Okay, shall not be allowed as a deduction. Okay, the amount of disallowed is going to be expenditure incurred, reduced, less by fair market value of goods, services, or the facilities, benefit, etc. received by the SSC. Okay, hope so this was clear. This was of section 40A subsection 2, and usually this point comes in exam. Okay, so let's go for the other part, guys, which is section 40 subsection 3. Okay, here comes where any expenditure is made to any person in one day. Okay, and that exceed rupees 100 per day, okay, is going to be disallowed. But as I told you, it should cash में होने का है क्या? अच्छा देखो इधर आओ फिर बताते. Okay, very simple. Let me say it again. Where the expenditure is made to any person in one day, ठीक है, in a day, and that expenditure exceed rupees 1000 rupees, ठीक है, in a cash, then it's going to be disallowed. In a cash, it's going to be disallowed. But what about the other ways? If it is done in account pay check, account pay bank draft, electronic clearing system, and prescribe more, then it's going to be allowed. For what? For the cash only it's going to be disallowed. Amount 10,000. And payment made to plying, hiring, leasing, goods carriage, limit would be rupees 35,000 per day per person. ठीक है, so for any person it's going to be 10,000. For the when the payment is made to specifically for the plying, hiring, leasing, goods carriage, ठीक है, for this case it's going to be rupees 35, ठीक है, and it's going to be per day, for the per day per person. Okay, let's read it quickly, guys, because there are so many other points in this section. ठीक है, so I'll be quick. Okay, Any expenditure which is in respect of which a payment or aggregate of payment made to a person in a single day otherwise than the account paying check or account pay bank draft or use of electronic clearance system through bank account or through such other electronic mode as may be prescribed exceed rupees 10,000 in case of payment made to transport operator for plying, hiring, leasing goods carriage, the enhanced limit is going to be 35,000 shall apply here. Okay, per day per person. Okay. If a payment exceed this limit, the entire expenditure would be disallowed. However, disallowance would not attract if cases and circumstances in which payment is made otherwise by way of account pay check or bank draft are covered in Rule 6DD. Okay, so they are simply saying for this part it's not going to be covered. Okay, so this part we have to read it now. Okay, so to get a more clarification about Rule 6DD. Okay, so wherein expenditure has been made as a deduction on accrual basis in any previous year and the payment is made in the subsequent previous year, and such payment or aggregate of the payment made to person in a day is made in subsequent previous year is in excess of limit of 10,000 rupees 35,000 specified above, the payment aggregate of the payment so made shall be deemed as profit and gain of the business or profession and charged to tax and income of the subsequent previous year. However, deeming provision will not apply in cases of circumstances covered under Rule 6DD. सीधी बात, no bakwas. Let me say the highlighted thing कि it should not exceed 10,000 and 35,000 from applying and all. ठीक है, per day per person. Okay, but in cash. But in other mode could be. ठीक है, it could be done. Okay, but for this Rule 6DD is not going to be covered in this case. मतलब the 10,000 limit or 35 limit is not going to be applying in Rule 6DD. Okay, ये सब बात simple है. Don't panic, don't confuse. It's simple. ठीक है, it's that simple. Okay, so let's read what is this Rule 6DD. So here exception to section 40A subsection 3 under Rule 6DD. There can be practical scenarios where the cash payment is not always possible. So the government has introduced certain scenario where the state provision will not be applicable. The above disallowance does not occur when the taxpayer makes payment in a certain situation. These circumstances and the cases are described by Rule 6DD. And the following is a list of exceptional to section 40A subsection 3. First, when the payment is made to government. Okay, disallowance are not made when you make payment to the union government or state government or via legal tender. This exception applies to the payment like sales tax, GST, customs, excise duties, freight charges, railway booking, etc. etc. First was of payment which is to the government. So these are the exception of 6DD rule wala. Okay, so these cases it's not going to apply. Kya wala limit? 10,000 wala limit and 35,000 wala limit for per day per person. Okay na? Okay. So payment to RBI, bank and the other insurer institution also this is not going to be applied. Okay. So I'll read some of the important points only. Okay, and hope so you will get it by reading the topic name also. Okay, and if you are having problem, pause the video and you have to read it. Okay, so what if it is the payment is made to the authorized dealer? In this case also, this case is not going to be applied. The limit of 10,000 rupees 35,000. Okay, what are they doing? Basically money charges hote. Okay, we know this about authorized dealer. Okay, so what about the payment to low paid employees? Let me read it here. Okay, when the payment is made to the low paid employees, the restriction in the section 40A subsection 3 do not apply to employees who pay retrenchment compensation, gratuity or any other terminal benefit to the employees or their heirs. However, there are two conditions. Firstly, the sum or aggregate sum must not be over rupees 50,000. Okay, and secondly, it should be paid upon employees retirement, resignation, discharge or death. Okay, so for this case, first limit was of 50,000 and this simply means the low paid employees. Okay, when the payment is made to them, first thing, it should not be exceeding rupees 50,000. Limit यहाँ पे नहीं आएगा, 1035 नहीं, यहाँ पे limit is going to be 50,000. Okay. Second, it should be paid on employees retirement, death, resignation or discharge, death वाली बात. Okay. So for this case, it's going to be, you have to keep this thing in mind. Okay. Second thing, another is about payment when payment of salary which is in remote location, backward location की बात कर रहे हैं. For these cases also, it's going to be, it's the limit is not going to be 10,000, 35,000. Okay. Payment via certain option, that is mail or telegraphic transfer from one bank to another, will also not cover in this case. Limit 10,000, 35. Letter of credit issued by bank, bill of exchange payable to bank, book adjustment from one bank account to the another. And for this clause, the term bank referred to the, you can here simply read out these things. Okay, what is the meaning of these? Okay, here the other thing which is covered here is payment which is made by the book adjustment. Disallowance are exempted from for the payment made via adjusting the purchase liability against goods services rented by the seller in the past. And here comes the purchase of agricultural animal and agricultural produce, which simply says restriction on payment of section 40A3. Now we know. Okay, but what are the things which is covered in this part? First simply says, when you purchase any produce from poultry farming, animal husbandry, dairy farming, apiculture, horticulture or fisheries, however the payment must be made to the cultivator, grower, producer of these goods will come under this exception of rule 6DD. So simply let me say, purchase of animal and the agriculture produce, ठीक है, animal husbandry, fisheries, सब इसमें is going to be covered here. ठीक है. Okay. Here again, the purchase of animal by butcher is comes under the exception. Okay, so what about the purchase of cotton industry produce? Yes, it's going to be covered under this part. And no banking services, where the banking services is not available some of the villages or the remote areas. Okay, so for them also they'll the limit is not going to be applicable. Okay, so what about the payment of retirement, retrenchment, resignation, discharge? Simple 50,000 limit hai na. haan ji. Okay, then let's go for the section 40A subsection 3A. This was all about section 40A subsection 3. Okay, so simply let me read it very quickly, guys. Okay, you have to keep something in mind. Dekho, we know this, that the limit of 10,000 should not exceed per day, where any expenditure is made to any person for per day per person. Okay, 10,000 to 35,000 limit is going to be there. Okay, but for some of the cases they are saying that rule 6DD is going to be overrule here. Okay, how it's going to overrule here? You have to keep these name in mind. When the payment is made to government, RBI वाला बात कर लिया, authorized person वाली बात कर लिया, bank को payment वाली बात कर लिया, if it is the payment is made to whom, to the animal farming and all वाले parts. ठीक है, and if it is done in remote area, the payment is made to remote area, or the payment is made by these modes. ठीक है, so these things are majorly covered in this part. Okay, okay, hope so up to this was really clear to you. Okay, so these let me give you example how this part is going to come in exam, like okay, specifically there would be some of the condition which comes from this part, for example. Okay, so we have to identify, like the limit is going to be here, for example horticulture से related ले लेते हैं, and the amount is for 75,000. as we know, as per 40A subsection 3, limit is only 10,000 or 35,000, and the payment is done in cash here. ठीक है, so what is going to be happen? Disallow होना चाहिए, but as per rule 6DD, it's overruling this section. ठीक है, so it's not going to be applied in this horticulture वाला case. ठीक है, so we have to read exception one by one, then only we'll get it कि हाँ is it going to cover in this part or not. ठीक है, simple बात बोल रही हूँ. Okay, hope so this part was also clear. Let's go for this part, section 40A subsection 3A. simple है, so don't worry. If an expense has been booked in previous year but its payment is made in the subsequent year, okay, if such payment made in a single day to a single person in a mode other than the account, pay, check, bank draft or ECS, which exceed rupees 10,000, the expense will deemed as profit from the business or profession. Such an income is chargeable to income tax in subsequent year. सीधी सीधी बात कर रहे हैं. Whenever it's going to be expenses related की बात करें, ठीक है. Whenever they are going to show, whenever that is going to happen, actual payment or law, ठीक है, that subsequent previous year it's going to be shown, ठीक है. simple बात है और it's nothing new to us. Okay, let's go for this part guys, ठीक है. I'll be quick, it's easy, so I'll be very quick. Okay, provision made for the gratuity under section 40A subsection 7. Acha, do you remember about some of the previous section? I have mentioned that if it was approved, right, if it is going to be approved, it is approved by the company, ठीक है, then what is going to happen? हाँ, डिडक्शन मिलेगा, हाँ जी मिलेगा, ठीक है, सिंपल बात. सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट दिस, ठीक है. इफ इट इज ऑन द एक्चुअल पेड बेसिस ऑन अंडर सेक्शन 43B, ठीक है. सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट दिस सेक्शन, ठीक है, ग्रेचुटी का. ओके, नथिंग मच न्यू इन दिस केस. एंड मार्क टू मार्केट लॉस वेर नॉट डिडक्टेबल एक्सेप्ट एज अ प्रोविजन प्रोवाइडेड इन सेक्शन 36 सब सेक्शन 1 क्लॉज. वी नो दिस पार्ट ऑल्सो, ठीक है. वेर दिस मार्क टू मार्केट, नो डिडक्शन अलाउंस इज गोइंग टू गेट, बट it is to be done as per ICDS, then only the deduction is going to be get by that SSC, ठीक है, कैन बी अवेल बाय द SSC, अदरवाइज नक्को मिलेगा यहाँ पे, ठीक है. सिंपल बात बोली गई है, ठीक है. सो डोंट वरी अबाउट इट. ओके, सो होप सो लेट्स डू अप टू दिस गाइस, ठीक है. आई डोंट वांट टू मेक हॉच पॉच, ठीक है सर. ठीक है, सो वी विल मीट इन नेक्स्ट वीडियो. आई वॉज लिटिल बिट क्विक गाइज, बट कोई बात नहीं, वी हैव टू कंप्लीट दिस चैप्टर एनी हाउ. ओके, सो होप सो you get something here. If it was useful for you, what you have to do, hit a like button, subscribe my channel and share this video to those who are doing CA CMA, ठीक है. So it will be more benefit to them also, है ना, because I'm also putting a lot of efforts to just to get a clarification of these topics and all, ठीक है. So hope so up to this is everything is clear now, ठीक है. So yes, do your revision properly, ठीक है. Go through each and every topic, don't ever try to leave anything. Whatever you are going to leave, that part is always going to come, ठीक है, definitely going to come. So you have no option dear, you cannot skip any of the topic, ठीक है. You cannot leave any of the topic, every small detail matters here, है ना. So yes, go through each and everything, ठीक है. There is no other option with us, that's it, है ना. and keep a consistency, that's it, है ना. and go for previous year question papers, RTP MTP स्कैनर खोलो, देखो हर क्वेश्चन, देखो भाई हर क्वेश्चन इंपॉर्टेंट है ना. and don't ever try to leave any question, you have to attempt every question in the question paper in the exam I'm talking about, है ना. so that's it guys, do your proper revision, concentration के साथ पढ़ाई करो. बहुत अच्छे सब्जेक्ट्स है सारे, ठीक है. अपन सब पास हो जाएंगे, है ना. चिल्ड्रन विल मीट इन आवर नेक्स्ट वीडियो. दिस इज ओमनी संतोष. टुडल्स गाइज.